Welcome back. In the wake of ceaseless attacks on national and oil gas assets by the numerous Niger Delta armed groups, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, had embarked on visits to the various states in the region to affirm the federal government's commitment to dialogue and resolve all thorny issues agitating against militants, peaceful coexistence, prosperous life amongst the people, as we did here. Chief Johnny Michael in our Abuja studio say, let's take this discussion further. Balazaka is still with me in the studios, and Johnny Michael is with us in our Abuja studios. Many thanks indeed for staying through. Mr. Michael, one way or the other, these agitations that we see in the Niger Delta stems from the need to restructure, as that has been established. Only yesterday, the Ijaw youths shut down the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board for not relocating IOCs and their offices to the Niger Delta. This is, of course, part of the 16-point agenda of PANDEF. They want implemented, or the PANDEF actually wants that particular one implemented. People say this is absolutely unnecessary. But do you think that this should be a major step to take by the IYC?
I am not speaking for IYC or whatever, because if today the headquarters of the IOCs is relocated to the Niger Delta, everybody knows that that will boom up the commercial stays of those different states, and it will also bring a very huge of employment opportunities to our communities and the oil-bearing communities, which every single Niger Delta man always wants for their people, which I also want that the IOCs, their headquarters, should be relocated to the place that they operate in. You cannot be operating your headquarters from Lagos, then you are coming to my community to drill all the oil from there, using it to develop another place. No, it's not done well. It's making all our people to be in the field work of either common welding or EPA, whatever it takes. Look, those are everything that everyone Niger Delta man need. But the problem is, where we are having problem is those people and how this area will be managed. You understand? Look, if we want to develop Niger Delta today, if the oil companies and whatever want to develop Niger Delta today, why not you hold a town hall meeting with the communities, be able to identify the instant needs? The oil company will identify instant needs, whoever place they operate from. But they are going to operate from Niger Delta to oversee the activities that is going on. That will always even beef up the security system in that area for saboteurs or people who bust pipeline, whatever, to prevent from that area. But the truth is, fine and good, we want those people to come. The same IYC, the same NYC, the same Ike group, and that are clamoring for those things, they are not the qualified people to clamor for or to represent the interests of the Niger Delta people. They did not have the support of the Niger Delta people. There is division in their houses. That is why I said that those leaders, they need to restructure their mind before restructuring Nigeria. Okay. Like, for example, now, at the Clark, I expected my father need to restructure, settle the problem.
I'd appreciate it. I'd appreciate it so much if you do not have to mention names. By then, by the way, that is total disclaimer for Channels Television. That's purely your own views. But do you think that what he says is the way to go when we talk about trying to understand the basics, even as it concerns the youths in the Niger Delta? The IYC office, I mean, the IYC did close the office of the monitoring, Nigerian monitoring department. But does this answer the question of the agitations in the Niger Delta?
No. And first of all, before I answer that directly, I want to say, I mean, based on our settings as Nigerians or Africans, we have respect for elders. You know, what elders do is they basically transfer knowledge to us, right? Where they got it wrong, they will advise us to avoid those potholes, right? And where they get it right, you know, they will tell us to improve. They bless us and they exit. That's what we have inherited. And so whenever I'm dealing with anything that has to do with elders, first of all, we give them their due respect. As far as I'm concerned, it is not the relocations of the administrative offices of the operating companies that has made us not to be able to construct refineries in Nigeria in the last 27 years. It is not the lack of relocation of administrative offices into the Niger deltas that has been able to make Nigerians, not with all the cars, the automobiles we have, we've not been able to manufacture one tire or the spoke of a bicycle, right? It is not the lack of movement of administrative offices that made us not to be able to do something about modular refineries. All we've been having are pollution plants, carcinogenic and toxification materials. You know, it has to be a political decision and a serious decision by the government of every country. When operating companies come, whether they are indigenous or IOCs, that is international oil companies, the first thing they do is they do carry out analysis. They look at areas that they call operational areas, and they think of areas that they can best classify as areas of administrative relationship or liaison, right, with the government. To the best of my knowledge and experience, all the operational offices, bases are within areas of operations, in this case in the Niger Delta. Then when you talk about other places where you have these offices, they are administrative offices. You graduate and you get to a particular level where you become more of an administrator. And if you're an administrator, you can operate from anywhere.
But the Niger Delta people believe that if we move the administrative offices to the Niger Delta, it will create more jobs for the people there.
No, I have this...
Is it necessarily so?
No, based on my experience, what you need to do is this. When you go into a contractual relationship with the government of a country to explore resources, whether they are human capital resources, whether they are natural resources, what you do is this. You comply with the regulatory standards of that country. In other words, are you supposed to pay your taxes? Are there other regulatory, fiscal, and other regimes that you need to comply with? You have to do that. But it is necessary that in your area of operations, you carry out what we call good corporate social responsibility, because you want to be seen as a good corporate entity. First of all, corporate social responsibility is not even compulsory, but is necessary for a good relationship between you and your host community.
Okay, let me take it very quickly before we close. Mr. Johnny, what do you make of the Vice President's visit to the Niger Delta state and talking about modular refineries as one of the cardinal points they intend to look at to try to reduce the agitations in the Niger Delta region?
I think the Vice President and the Buhari-led government has done it so much to intervene in the situation in Niger Delta. But one thing we are very careful of is not for the Vice President team not to make the same mistake that is being done in the past government. We want a permanent peace in the Niger Delta. The movement by the Vice President to meet with some individual in the Niger Delta is a very welcome development. But I expected whereby the Vice President should have should have hold a town hall meeting directly with the communities, but not with a sectional body. I am very scared whereby the Vice President and the team will never make the same mistake that has made Niger Delta on a shift place. For example,
I'm afraid that we're going to have to drop the anchor at this point. Many thanks indeed for talking to us. Zakabala is an economist and public affairs analyst and also a chartered accountant. Many thanks for talking to us. And Johnny Michaels from our Abuja studios, chairman, Baramatu Youth Development Association, that's X. It's many thanks indeed to you as well for being a part of the show. I am Gimba Omar, and this is State of the Nation.